Hi everybody, my name's Anita Banerjee and I'm part of the SSI team, and I'm just here to introduce your keynote speaker this morning, who is Ruth Nanjala. So Ruth is based at the University of Oxford. She's going to introduce herself and her work more fully. But I work with Ruth on the Inclusive RSC project at the SSI. And the thing that I really enjoyed about working with Ruth was her passion both for science and for EDI. So she showed a real appreciation for those who have gone before her, both in science and doing equity, diversity and inclusion. She also has a very strong commitment for those who are coming after her to pave the way for them. So I know it takes a lot of energy to both follow a science career and take on this work of making science and computational research open to a more diverse group of people. So I'd like to thank Ruth for the energy and commitment that she's shown, her work for the SSI, and for coming to Collaborations Workshop to give this keynote speech. So Ruth, I'll hand over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm just testing my mic, so please respond to me. Hello. Yeah, I don't think it's working. Is it? Mic.
Your mic is working.
It's perfect? All right, great. All right. Okay.
This is one of the introduction. So it should be like the sector. Oh, no, it's one for one. It is. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Yep. Right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm truly honored to be here today at the Software Sustainability Institute Collaborators Workshop 25, a gathering of minds committed to making research software not only better, but fairer, more inclusive, and more sustainable. Thank you to the organizing committee for inviting me to speak on a topic that is not just close to my heart, but essential to the future of research software, science, and society. My name is Ruth Nanjala, and as you can see from this slide, I am from Kenya. That's why you can find Kenya on the world map. And that's our plan. I have a background in bioinformatics. I have extensively also taught bioinformatics at different avenues. So the first slide here shows a project that I led. It's called the Bioinformatics Mentorship and Incubation Program. This was at a research institute called ICIPE, which is the International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology. It's in Kenya. And here we were sort of like running, a program to ensure that we teach bioinformatics skills to students that just come in straight from undergraduate program in order to prepare or to create a professional bioinformatics pipeline where people can venture into jobs that are require bioinformatics expertise, or they can go into a master's having the bioinformatics skills at hand. So these are just a few of the how do I describe it? My students that I work with them. And below here is the program PI. I don't know what's happening with the pointer, but anyway, that's okay. And then there's this other slide as well, which shows the also courses that I've taught for bioinformatics as well. which were part of the Pan-African Bioinformatics Network. I don't know whether anyone has heard of HT environments. So they also offer a wide range of bioinformatics skills, particularly in the African continent. So I've also taught for them. I'm also a certified carpenters instructor. And I teach both data carpentry and software carpentry lessons, both in Oxford and in Africa. As you can see, I'm so passionate about Africa. So more recently, I have taught on the use of software in genomics research. So this slide has a lot of information, but just to focus on the left side here. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna give up on the pointer. So just to focus on the left side, which is the FutureLearn. I don't know whether you've heard about FutureLearn. I also did develop and teach sort of bioinformatics for the Welcome Connecting Science, and also assisted with teaching bioinformatics for the Masters in Genomic Medicine course at the University of Oxford. Yeah, so that's basically what I have done in the field of teaching and research in writing software and teaching it. But I've also, like Anita mentioned, I was part of the Inclusive RSC project last year, where we worked together with this amazing team. Anita is here. I think a few of them are gonna be here tomorrow. They'll join the panel on EDI as well, and you're gonna see them. So we worked together to co-design inclusive research tools, and this included an interview guide, a focus group schedule that are tailored for identity-based research within underrepresented RSCs. If you want to know more about what we did, you can reach out to me during breaks or Anita, and we'll be happy to share more about this project that we did as part of SSI. Right. Oh, so in my spare time, I actually pursue a PhD. Don't tell my supervisor. At the University of Oxford. That's my matriculation picture, and I also got to do an exchange program at Harvard Medical School, where I was also writing research for polygenic risk cause analysis within the African context. So my PhD research is fully computational. I use a mix of statistical and bioinformatics approaches to explore the complex relationship between a region within the immune system that we call HLA. It's basically the army. So immune system is basically the army of the body. So HLA is part of the immune system. And I'm trying to just understand the association between this particular region and a wide range of autoimmune and infectious traits. So yeah, that's a rough, a brief background of me and what I do. And so while this is primarily a gathering of software engineers, I'd like to take a moment to highlight an EDI initiative, which I call my science journey. This is a project that I founded, and this would help to explain why equity, diversity, and inclusion matter deeply to me. I'm gonna pause here and take water. Sorry. Okay. All right. So on the 23rd of last month, I hosted Professor Christian Happy, one of Africa's leading genomic scientists, on the My Science Journey platform. At the start of our 1-hour conversation, he shared how, at the age of 8, a severe bout of malaria left him bedridden and determined to find a cure. That childhood vow propelled him into a career that has rewritten outbreak response across West Africa and beyond. Professor Happy graduated top of his class in high school, and while everyone expected him to go to medical school, which is what we normally expect, and become a doctor, he chose science, convinced that understanding malaria at its molecular roots is the fastest path to cure. Between 1993 to 2000, he worked through his BSc, MSc, and PhD in molecular parasitology at the University of Ibadan, in Nigeria. In 2000, Christian headed to Harvard Tishan School of Public Health for a postdoctoral fellowship under Professor Diane Watt, a professor of infectious diseases. There, he mastered parasite genomics and bioinformatics pipelines, skills he knew would be vital back at home. Returning to Nigeria, he led the first molecular epidemiology atlas of Plasmodium falciparum drug resistance across southwestern states. Imagine collecting blood samples from dozens of villages, sequencing them, and mapping resistance hotspots, then seeing national treatment guidelines shift within months. Fast forward to 2013, with the US NIH support, Christian founded the African Center of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Diseases, what I will refer to as SGID moving forward. This is West Africa's first dedicated outbreak genomics hub. Through SGID, he has trained over 1,000 African scientists in genomics, bioinformatics, and disease surveillance. In 2014, Ebola arrived in Nigeria. Within hours, SGID sequenced the virus. Sequencing basically is just figuring the blueprint of the virus, and shared it openly with the World Health Organization, accelerating global containment strategies. You can imagine Ebola as a virus in your country. In early 2020, Nigeria's first COVID-19 sample arrived at his lab, and within 48 hours, this is very rare in Africa. SGID had published Africa's first COVID-19 virus genome, what we term as SARS-CoV-2 genome. That shift from data consumer to data producer redefined the continent's role in global health. In April 2025, the Time magazine named Professor Happy as one of the 100 most influential people in the world, among other leaders, including Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know where that slide disappeared to.
I think it's one more. It's the next one.
It's the next one? Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this is actually last month when Time magazine released the list of 100 most influential people, and Professor Happy was one of them. This is why we launched My Science Journey, a platform dedicated to amplifying the voices of African researchers. We share stories like Professor Happy or Professor Benjamin Aribisala, who's a professor of computer science and has gone ahead to establish a data science and image analysis platform that is transforming medical imaging in Nigeria. Our goal is not just to inspire. This was supposed to also be a video, but yeah, it's okay. So our goal is not just to inspire, but to also increase the number of Africans pursuing careers in science, including RSCs. We also want to showcase diverse journeys and the many paths to scientific impact. We firmly believe that science voices have to be the loudest, and therefore we tell stories that are relatable to the upcoming generation of African scientists. EDI for us will be achieved by showing generations that it is possible. They have merit, things are not just passed to them, and they have predecessors whose shoulders they can stand on. So this is the team that runs My Science Journey on the left side. There's 5 of us. And on the right-hand side, it just shows one of an outreach program that we did at Novo Nordisk in Oxford. So far, we have hosted over 50 speakers since we started My Science Journey. And these speakers include principal investigators, senior scientists, industry CEOs, professors, and capacity building heads. The speakers also are from different parts of the globe. We have people from Kenya, the United Kingdom, the US, Australia, Nigeria, Uganda, Ghana, Gambia, and South Africa. So these basically are just examples of how I am contributing to the EDI initiative. I do recognize that, a lot of mentorship and a lot of people believed in me and they were able to push me forward. And what I'm just trying to do is to also pave a way for others to also, envision or see themselves in these particular roles. I do recognize that across the research software community, there has also been significant strides towards EDI. The SSI, for example, is actively working towards EDI through different projects, such as the inclusive RSC project that I was part of. However, persistent gaps remain. Women, people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, and those from low income or global south backgrounds remain underrepresented. Disability inclusion is still an afterthought. And often, inclusion efforts fall to the very people that are often marginalized, creating burnout and inequity. I'll let that sink for a minute. Allow me to share one example by Chu. Sorry, I don't know, I'm butchering the name probably, by Hong et al., who showed that the majority of the RSCs in the UK are still men. The figure is a bit complex, but basically that's the summary. When we lack diversity among those shaping software, we risk embedding bias, excluding entire communities, and missing out on innovation. Equity, diversity, and inclusion are not optional. They are structural necessities for sustainability. We need scientists, software engineers, policy makers, users, and yes, even critics at the table. We must move beyond performative acts, as EDI has been critiqued to structural change. So today, I leave you with three things: a question, an advice, and an invitation. So the question is, where do you hold privilege? Where can you shift power? The advice is, inclusion is built through trust, and trust takes time. And finally, an invitation. Equity work is messy, it is political, and often uncomfortable. Do it anyways. In the words of Maya Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Let this community, this incredible network of collaborators, be one that doesn't just know better, but one that boldly does better. Let us build knowing that the next Professor Happy may be sitting at a candlelit desk somewhere, just waiting for their moment. Let us make sure they don't have to wait too long. Thank you.
For that, a really in-depth talk in such a short time. Your own experiences, the journey of Professor Hartley and then that invitation at the end. It's really much appreciated. So we have some questions on Slido. So on the Slack channel, there's the link to Slido, so you can go there and upload the questions that are there, or you can put in your own questions. So I'll read out the first question for you, Ruth. It says, thank you, Ruth, for the wonderful talk. While working in the UK, how has your experience with performative EDI that's sitting in many Western academic institutions? So how is your experience with performative EDI? And how can we resist it?
How can we do it?
How can we resist performative EDI?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Yeah, I think it just boils down to what I have mentioned about, performative acts, where people, I don't want to say pretend, but I'm going to say pretend that they're actually actively working toward EDI, but they sort of like have it as a cover up. That is frustrating. And so my response would be like, if you are genuinely invested in championing for EDI, then don't pretend, don't cover up, champion for it boldly, like I mentioned. If you don't want to champion for it, don't do it, don't pretend. So my experience, let me let me just leave it there. Yeah.
Great, so call for kind of authenticity and transparency there. And we can ask our institutions that through showing data and showing change, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question. Is the My Science Journey site project structure something that other groups could use, e.g. other geographic regions and underrepresented groups?
Absolutely. I'd love to work, towards, giving a structure for not the vision, but like how we run My Science Journey. And, I'm happy to share that so that we can expand and sort of like increase representation in all other places. I only focus on Africa because I am African. So, yeah.
So it's very much that you can only be what you can see.
Absolutely.
Those role models to follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and showing capabilities to the rest of the world as well. Okay. How much time?
We have 12 more minutes.
12 more minutes, great. What advice would you give early careers researchers in the UK and Europe who are interested in working with African researchers? What are the best ways to start such engagements?
That's a very good question. So for anyone that is interested with working with African researchers, there's a lot of sort of like opportunities or collaborations that you could be part of. Within, I can speak for Oxford because that's where I am, but I know within different universities and institutions, there's sort of like collaborations that are ongoing. I think what you need to do is like find out from your institution or from your universities areas of collaboration. So for example, in Oxford, I know there's the Pandemic Science Institute that collaborates with Science for Africa Foundation that is going to sort of like start this pandemic health collaborative within Africa. I know also a lot of scientists that do visiting fellowships, vice versa, whether going to Africa or coming to the UK. So bringing the African researchers to the UK, and there they get to collaborate. So I think for that particular person is like finding out within your institution what are the existing ways in which collaborations are happening. If there isn't one, then they should be the pioneers of establishing such collaborations.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I suppose if you move into an existing collaboration, then I suppose it's looking at how responsible that collaboration is and the way it uses data and resources as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you spoke about that with Professor Harkey's work, and sort of moving towards data producer and data user.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I'll be happy to also do referrals and to, sort of like connect people. So if you think you'd be happy to collaborate, just let me know what kind of researcher you're looking to collaborate with, and I'm sure I will find someone for you. So, yeah.
As the My Science Journey, that website, people can look on there and see people working in Africa in key areas.
So my science journey only has the bios and photos for the speakers that we have hosted so far. So not everyone that is working within Africa, there's a lot of people that are working within Africa. I've just hosted, I don't know whether I should say less than 1%, even though I've posted more than 50, because there's a lot of people that are actually pushing research gig in Africa. So that could be a starting point. You can go to the website, which should be that. Sorry, yeah. It's supposed to be moving, but it's not moving. But that's the website. If you just type mysciencejourney.com and then go to speakers, you should be able to see all the speakers that we posted. That could be a starting point. If there's no one that you're interested in there, I'm happy to do referrals or to sort of like ask around and find people that you can collaborate with.
So what have you found to be the best way or the best ways of changing policymakers' minds?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, having everyone at the table. Because if you have, imagine having a policymakers discussion, or a discussion of people that are, writing policy or figuring out policy, and there's no one from actually the regions that you're thinking of, of course, there's not going to be representation there, because you can only speak about your lived experiences or where you're coming from. You might have an idea of, okay, this is probably what is happening in the other part of the world, and maybe your, outcome may be biased towards that, but probably that's actually not what is happening. So I'd say having everyone represented at the table.
How can we encourage folks who don't feel like EDI benefits them to join in with the effort and or share the work?
I don't think EDI doesn't benefit anyone. It actually benefits everyone, because you want a diversity of thoughts. If you're trying to build a software, for example, you are, a software engineer or a software developer, you're trying to write a software that you want to be used globally. If you're not, including, EDI perspectives in building the software, you're going to build something that is only specific to a particular group. So for example, you can build something that is only or would work only for the UK. But probably if that is what you're interested in, then well and good. But I'd presume that if you're building something, you want it to be something that can be used across the globe, right? So if you want to build something that actually can go beyond borders, you have to have EDI, there. So generally, EDI is for everyone. It's not just for those that feel that are part of EDI, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the last two questions.
Okay.
I'm going to switch around the order slightly. So firstly, have many of the speakers you've included in My Science Journey needed to leave Africa to progress their careers?
Needed to leave Africa. I can't get the exact number, but there's a mixture of different speakers there. There's people that left Africa, went abroad, and then went back to Africa. There's people that never left Africa, and there's people that were actually born and grew up abroad. So there's different perspectives that we bring to the table. So we are not just only saying that, you have to leave the continent for you to be able to progress. We are trying that's the bit where I'm saying showing diverse pathways. We are trying to show people that are of African descent that you can contribute or make impacts in different ways. You can still be in the continent and make an impact. You can leave the continent and make an impact. If you're born abroad, you can still make an impact there. If you want to go back to the continent, you can also make an impact. So basically, we are not giving them a linear sort of like path and telling them, this is, this is what you should do. Rather, we are trying to tell them there are several ways to kill a cat. You just have to figure out which way works better for me.
And the final question, can you give some day-to-day tips on how I or we can use our significant privilege to drive structural change around EDI? So what's your wish list for those who have power and privilege?
And I will end it here and say, make sure everyone is at the table. If you have power, then it means you have the capacity to bring everyone at the table. So bring everyone on the decision-making table.
Thank you, Ruth, for a fabulous keynote speech.